Well, I think it might be easier to maybe understand some of the kind of technical details of things, materials or recycling processes or so. But I think at the same time, I mean, you in order to find really good solutions, good innovations, you really need a lot of different skills and perspective of things. You need to understand what the consumer would like to have. You need to understand how to design things, how to produce things, and so on. So, no, I mean, yeah, to some extent, but yeah, that won't make the big difference. Yeah. Well, I think for us, it's like we have made this really long-term, commitments and set goals that are really long-term. So 2030, for example, we should have only recycled or other sustainably sourced materials. And 2040, so almost 20 years from now, we should be climate positive. And with those really long-term, goals, it's easy for us to also take that, of course, long-term approach and make investments accordingly. And it's really clear that in order for us to be able to reach those goals, we need to find ways to produce materials in new ways. We need a lot of different innovations in terms of material and also other things. We also launched this or issued a sustainability-linked bond earlier this year, and that bond is connected to a few targets. Like, for example, by 2030, we should have 30% recycled materials, and other targets are connected to the reduction of emissions, both within our own operations, but also within our supply chain. So also there we have this really long-term commitment. Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's really one of the missions with our, what we call Circular Innovation Lab, is really to go out there and find those startups and people with great ideas, and to start up collaborations like this. And I think it's really a two-way street. It's like, I mean, we need them, of course, to be able to reach our goals, but they also need us to be able to scale their operations and become commercial, basically. Well, I think maybe both yes and no. I mean, we definitely need those startups and new great ideas and so on. But we also see that we can contribute with a lot of experience actually, and since we have all that time within the textile industry and the retail industry, we have also, of course, a huge network and great supply chain connections, and we have a very good reach in our communications and so on. So, and that's also something that they need. The startups need that, and they might lack that. So, again, it's really this, like, we need to help each other and co-create to find the best solutions using our experience and their great ideas and innovations, basically. And so we need to partner up. I think that looking at our mission here, which is really to make a difference on a big scale, going beyond really our own operations, and so when we look at a new material or a new innovation, I mean, we always have that in mind, that we need to look at the scalability of it. Is there a potential that this material or this process can reach a big scale? Because in order to have an impact, big impact, you really have to move beyond that kind of prototyping or piloting stage. So I guess that's like the core parameter here that we need to understand when we look at new innovations. Well, I guess it's also a natural thing of, you know, finding new ways to do things. You have to maybe make a, you know, a lot of bets, but you know, some will be successful, some won't. So that's a matter of, you know, continuous evaluation and, you know, try to find the best ones. Yeah, I mean, to start with, looking at the science, it's basically clear that, you know, we cannot go on with business as usual. The industry, and I mean the whole industry, needs to change. I mean, I need to change how fashion is made and consumed and so on. And of course, H&M as a very big player in that industry has also an important role to play to support the transformation of the business to go from a circular, to go from that linear model of today towards a circular one. And that goes beyond the materials that we're using, you know. So we're also currently, you know, testing other, you know, parts of that circular system. I mean, other ways to you know, give customers access to fashion, for example, there's a rental, a resell, or subscription-based models, and so on. So there are many different parts of that circular systems that need to be kind of, you know, figured out and so on. But we are determined to do so. You know, but some things that really, in order to achieve that systemic change, we need to really work with others as well. I mean, one of the main challenges is that the majority of the textile supply chain is located in countries that are, you know, where most energy comes from fossil fuels. And that's not really something that one single company can change, you know, on its own. So really must come together and collaborate, and also affect politicians and decision makers and so on. So yeah, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. But going back, I mean, looking at the materials and our, you know, 2030 goal, you know, there is a lot we can do there to make sure that they become recycled materials become commercially available, and we need to continue to invest, etc., etc. So. Well, I think there is, I mean, those fibers are, of course, very much appreciated by customers, and they have many great properties. But then there is like still a lack of technology, basically, that needs to be, you know, further developed. But I think there are, you know, good examples coming, and I think that looking at one partnership that we have with a company called Renewcell, that are producing a material from textile waste that we can, you know, turn into fiber, called Circulose. That's a really great example where an innovation has become successful and been starting to use that. And last year we launched the first collection on scale using that fiber. And there are also other examples that are also recent and haven't really, you know, made it to the industrial level yet. But we cooperate with a French company called Fairbricks that have this really interesting technology of turning CO2 or carbon dioxide into polyester, which is then one of the main fibers of the industry. And I think that might be like a real game changer, you know, how we look also at CO2, which is currently or is a big problem, but it could also be an important raw material for producing materials in future. So that's really, really interesting. So there are things happening, but yeah, it takes a bit of time. That's really difficult to say, of course. I mean, we do see a lot of breakthroughs in the textile recycling field. It's still going to take some time, but that's really what we are, focusing a lot on. And as I mentioned there, I mean, 2025, we aim to have 30% of our material to be recycled. But yeah, there are a lot of development that needs to be done, and a lot of investments that needs to be, done also. But yeah, it's moving forward. So let's see. Yeah, I think that, I mean, and I think they are doing a lot of things also. I mean, we participate in some projects that are funded or co-funded by the EU, together with many other, companies in called consortiums, to support the development of new materials and more sustainable processing. So I think that that's really good. We can work together as a value chain. Then, of course, there are policies that could also be, used to kind of move incentives towards, a certain direction. Yeah, and I was going to say that's really also a shared responsibility, and we need a partnership. I mean, we need to put that demand and make those investments towards the suppliers and manufacturers, but then of course they need to respond to that and be able to manufacture the materials needed, basically. So it's really, we need each other. Yeah, I think that, I mean, first of all, you really need to keep your eyes open and your mind open for everything. I usually say that always accept like a first call with everyone, because even if it doesn't look really interesting at the first glance, you might learn more and then it becomes interesting. You never know, really. Don't be afraid of working differently or working, let's say, outside the box, kind of. But also, when it comes to actually setting up that partnership, really try to understand and look deeply into what you have to offer, in addition to funding, but what you have to offer to that potential partner, which might be something that you take for granted, but maybe something that's really valuable for them. So I think that's really good when you set up a partnership, that it really makes sure that it's valuable for both parties, of course. But one other thing that we believe strongly in is that we do not ask for exclusivity when it comes to the results of our projects, because we would like the materials that we are interested in, and the materials that we think will be part of the solution here, we would like them to be used by many, not only by us. We think that is actually a benefit for us if they are spread to the wider industry. So I think that's really important.